Hello and welcome to Finextra. I'm Hannah Wallace and today I'm joined by Stacey English, Head of Regulatory Intelligence for Thomson Reuters, and we're going to be talking about the latest cost of compliance report to gain insight on the emerging trends around regulatory risks and compliance. Stacey, it's great to have you here. Thank you.
Thanks, great to speak to you.
So the availability of budget and resource is central to cost and compliance. Can you tell me a bit more about the trends you're seeing about the level of budget and resource for managing regulatory risk and compliance this year?
Well, certainly ever since the financial crisis, we've seen more and more resources given to compliance, largely as a sort of knee-jerk reaction in order to fix things that have gone wrong. And it's still clear that firms are very much investing in compliance. We're seeing about half of teams who are actually expecting a bigger budget this year. That said, it does seem to be that we're reaching something of a pivot point in compliance. We've seen the fewest number of firms tell us that they're expecting a significantly higher budget, and we've had the largest number of firms telling us that their budget's going to stay flat. And what this represents really is something of a first indicator and a recognition that resources cannot continue to be thrown at compliance, and firms really need to find a smarter way to be managing regulatory risks.
Okay, you speak of a pivotal point. How are firms investing in compliance for the future?
We heard from over 900 financial services firms, and the real benefit to that for other firms and compliance functions is being able to benchmark their plans and expectations against other industry peers. And there is quite a lot of consistency in how those budgets are being spent. Over 2/5 are intending to grow their compliance teams, which is something of a surprise, but the types of resources that they're looking to recruit are much more experience, much deeper expertise, and that's largely because of the growing scope of compliance to cover things like conduct, cyber and data privacy. Firms are also investing heavily in technology, and that's really to automate a lot of existing processes so they can actually spend more time on value-added activities.
And following on from that, what do you see as the biggest compliance challenges that firms face?
So there's a huge challenge for compliance functions really in knowing where to prioritise, everything from fixing issues that have gone on in the past through to preparing for future regulatory change. But the biggest specific challenge is the volume, pace and rate of regulatory change. We're seeing over 200 developments every single day coming out of regulators, and of course there are major pieces of legislation being implemented at the moment, not least MiFID II and the General Data Protection Regulation. And just as it seems that some of these bigger pieces of legislation were reaching their final phases of implementation, we have things like Brexit and the political uncertainty there, and developments in fintech, which are really putting reg change back into the spotlight.
And finally, another thread throughout the research is the impact of technology on the remit of the compliance function. What impact is that having in practice?
So technology is having a bigger impact on compliance than ever before, and we're seeing a real marked shift in compliance teams looking at fintech and regtech favourably in a positive light, and that's really because they can see the benefits that it's going to bring, everything from efficiency through to better customer outcomes, which all brings a competitive advantage to the business. A lot of firms have already implemented regtech solutions, and others are going to be implementing them in the year ahead. And the sort of areas that are most impacted really are things like capturing reg change and implementing reg change. Of course, technology brings challenges and risks too. Cyber security and cyber resilience is never far from the headlines. And what used to be an IT issue around cyber has now become a big priority for regulators, because if there's an incident, then it has an impact on customers, and therefore it's a priority for compliance teams too. So they're expecting to spend a lot of time in the year ahead assessing their cyber resilience. And also in terms of legacy systems, a lot of firms have old systems with patches and workarounds and fixes, and they need substantial investment to upgrade them to allow for new technology.
Stacey, this has been great. Thank you.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
And thank you for watching.